So today we'll be hearing from Karen Burnett. She's a 1990 graduate of Christopher Newport University with a BSBA in accounting. She's been working with QuickBooks for 22 years, and 20 of those years she's ran her own business, By the Book, Inc. And she has over 100 clients at Campton Roads. And so bookkeeping, as you all know, is one of the most annoying, frustrating, and time-consuming tasks that any small business has to do. But it has to be done accurately and on a timely basis. And so probably you wouldn't be here if bookkeeping was what you did best, but thankfully Karen Burnett here thrives on numbers, analysis, and tracking cash flow, and keeping the books balanced, and she's here to share her tips with you today. Thank you. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you. Hello. So my business is By the Book, and I have been doing this for 20 years, and I have a wonderful team of people that work with me as well. And one of our niches is that we do come on site. So if you are interested in, we come on site to do bookkeeping as well as QuickBooks training. So I am located in Hampton, but we travel anywhere from Southside to Williamsburg, obviously here in Gloucester as well. So who in the room is already using QuickBooks? Is everybody using QuickBooks pretty much? Not everybody, but most people. So if you have any questions, if anything comes to mind as I'm talking, write it down, because I'm definitely going to take questions. I love that part of it, just to see what we can talk about. So I'm also curious to know what kind of entities. Do we have S corporations and LLCs that are taxed as S corporations? Do you have anybody do that?
I'm sorry.
Huh?
Would you say
an LLC, but you get taxed as an S corporation. So you do a tax return in 1120S, but you set your business up legally as an LLC versus a complete S corp.
Is that a good thing?
It is a good thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're an LLC, single member LLC, and if you set your business up as an LLC, you're taxed as a sole proprietor, which means you have a Schedule C on your personal tax return. But you can elect to be an S corporation for tax purposes, and then you do an 1120S, and you have to do payroll as the owner. But it is a little bit better of a tax break for you to do it that way. So, but it's cheaper to set up sometimes an LLC, and it's easier, especially if you're new in business. An LLC is the way to go. I was an LLC the first 3 years, and then I became an S corp after that. So, because it does require payroll, which is a lot of extra bookkeeping work. So just a little quick story about if you're in business for yourself, who has employees? Does anyone have employees in their business? So, anyway. If you have employees and you might let them help you with your bookkeeping, unfortunately I have some horror stories about embezzlement where I have been called in after the fact where someone has taken thousands of dollars, and I actually have been to court with a client about that, and the person basically had to do some community service, and that's it. They got off because the ruling was it was just stupidity, that they were just doing things and weren't doing business practices the right way. So one of the things that our company offers as well is a second set of eyes to come in and just kind of help you, or we can also train you of what do you need to look at in your business to make sure that, you know, if you have someone helping you out with your bookkeeping, that things are right, and how to recognize and read your financial statements. So anyone using online QuickBooks and desktop QuickBooks? So I, as she said, have been working with QuickBooks for 22 years, way before online QuickBooks came in. I'm still a proponent of desktop QuickBooks. Intuit loves online and is definitely pushing everybody in that direction. And I get the question a lot of, you know, what's best for my business? Should I do online or desktop? And it is a personal preference overall. My question is, well, are you looking for a program that you can have access to from anywhere? Okay, maybe online is best for you. However, with online, it's a subscription, a monthly subscription, so it's going to cost more. You can buy desktop QuickBooks, and if you are not using the payroll function, you can keep that program for 10 years easily and just keep going with it. So online might not be the best option. Another thing with the desktop, if you are looking for something where you can have access, let's say you have your computer You have a laptop, maybe you have a home computer and you have a laptop. You want to be able to take your laptop but still access your QuickBooks file. You can use Dropbox file sharing program to put that data file in. That way you're still using the desktop version of QuickBooks, but you have access to it from multiple places. And that works out really, and if you have employees and you want to give other people access, that works out really great too. We use it as a platform, Dropbox, with our clients so that the client has access to it, to their program, and then we also have access. And we just kind of monitor who's in the program and when, because you can't all be in there at one time. You had some nightmares with that?
Much better now that they've made some changes to Dropbox.
So, yeah, you do have to be.
It does work beautifully.
It does. It's a fantastic, it's free, you know, or you can do business Dropbox if you need that level of Dropbox, but the minimum one is free. It's very easy to use. Also, I get questions about Pro and Premier, contractors version, nonprofit version. My advice is always just start out low. Just go with QuickBooks Pro. If you need all the bells and whistles, then you can always upgrade, but don't spend your money if you don't have to. And a lot of times what you're getting with the bigger programs is extra reports, not so much bells and whistles, but reporting and things, and you may not even use those. So you don't want to waste your money on that. So the name of the thing was QuickBooks Tips and Tricks. So I figured I would just tell you a few things about that QuickBooks can do. If you're working in it, has anyone had the frustration of you started your company and you click tab to go through the fields, and then if you hit enter, it saves the transaction? And no one's had that problem? Everyone likes tab? So, well, QuickBooks gives you the option of either tabbing through the fields or pressing enter to go through the fields, like in a check screen. If you go to your preferences, you can choose whether you want to click tab or enter. So for me, I like to hit enter, but some of the girls that work for me, they like tab. You can click back and forth between the two. So it's just it's a preference. There's a calculator if you're in the fields and you're in a check screen, or if you're in the deposit screen and you want to add up 3 or 4 numbers, there's a calculator function right there. You just click start typing. Hit the plus key, it'll add in the next number. Hit the plus key, add in the next one, hit enter, and that's your equal. There's also customized fields. Has anyone ever used the customized fields in their QuickBooks? If you're trying to track something specific, one thing I track is all my clients. I track what year they became my client. I track who their CPA is. I track which one of my staff is working with them. And by using these customized fields, I can run reports based on those fields. So if there's something specific, it's in the setup of the customer or the vendor. In that screen, you go in there and then you can set up what they call customized fields. And you can name them anything you want. And once you've set that up, then you can pull those into reports. And I also use that for if you have like clients at different rates. It's an easy way to do it. QuickBooks has other ways of doing that, but customized field works really well, just especially for running reports. I know you said you were in construction, and we also have, so there's job costing. Does anyone else do anything that would require job costing? No? Just construction?
Programs.
Okay.
Group programs and stuff like that.
So what type of business do you have?
I'm an educational farm.
Okay. All right. Oh, so you give programs.
Right.
So you want to know whether your program made money or not. A specific program?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, for job costing, that's what, it would be, you know, Mrs. Smith calls me up and she wants me to build her a bathroom, and I want to know specifically, did I make money on Mrs. Smith's bathroom? So specifically, it's one of those things, how you put the information in determines how you can get the reports out of QuickBooks. So, but if no one has that specific thing, does anyone want to know about job costing? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have different clients that I'm a website designer, so I have different clients that may have different fees for hosting their domains. Is that domain names and stuff like that I purchase on their behalf and I bill it out to them. Is that something where I could use the job costing? To see if,
Yes.
what the income and expenses related to each client?
Yes, you could, because you could, so in the, when you create an invoice for that client to bill them for that service, you have an item and that would tie to that client. Then when you purchase, when you're actually paying for the service yourself, if you know specifically, yes, that this amount, this is for this client, then same thing, you'd use the same item when you're actually paying it through the check screen or the bill screen, and then tie that customer's name in that into the field. We're on that same line, and then you could run a job cost report based on that item even, and be able to see that you are charging enough, yes, that you're paying this and you're charging your customer this and you're making money. That would work really well for that.
Can you enter expenses against that too? Like if you're doing a job or a program and then these are the expenses you spent on that, does it all go into that?
You can,
I'm
yes.
still working on that, so.
So yeah, specific.
If you really made money on that or if you need to up your price, you know.
Exactly. And then another field, instead of using so when you create an invoice in QuickBooks, you have to create an item. And when you create an item, that then ties to a general ledger account, income account. So you can use those items as a way to job cost, because you can use that item on the invoice side when you're billing somebody, and you can also use it on the side when you're actually paying the bill. So that puts those two together, and then you can see I billed my client $10 and I paid $5 by using that same item to do that. But another easier way for something like that is to use classes. It's less, especially if you're just trying to, and like you had mentioned rental properties, classes work great for rental properties because you just set up each property as a class. And then you can run a profit and loss by class. So you can see rental income came in, expenses went out against this particular property. It also works great for pulling to the tax return for rental properties because you have to list each property separately and put their income and their expenses.
So I could do job costing, like, I'm a massage therapist, so I could do job costing for like a special oil or something, like how much it costs per client for a certain oil, like, because I do like CBD oil, and CBD oil is expensive. So I could be running a job cost on that.
You could, if you wanted to get that, if you wanted to get that detailed and putting in an invoice, because you'd have to include the some amount of money that you said is part of that service.
Well, I do, sometimes I will do invoices for people, like, if they're, like mobile or whatever. So yeah, if you've got something where you're going to invoice them and you create an item for that oil, also when you purchase that oil, you'll use the same item, and then you can compare how much am I selling it and how much am I paying for it, and to see that you're making money. Thank you.
Because it's all about the details, isn't it? It really is.
It is.
You know, because you're charging, but then you may be serving refreshments, you may be, you know, the paper, the printing, the flyers, just everything.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and you can get really detailed on job costing, or you can just use vague categories. It depends on the reporting that you're going to pull out of QuickBooks and how much you're going to analyze it. So when you set up QuickBooks, it's not, if you're not someone who's going to analyze your reports down to the nth degree, then don't kill yourself to put the information in to the nth degree. You'll just stress yourself out. You know, because it can just be as simple as, if you're in construction, it can be as simple as materials and labor, and that's it, you know, and subcontractors. Or you can get really detailed and say, you know, I'm using exactly these kinds of materials and I've got 5 different types of labor. So you can get really detailed, but keep it simple to begin with. Anybody else have a question?
Should advertising be broken down for program or job too? I mean, if you're doing something and you're advertising for that, shouldn't that be included? I never know what to do. I always kind of lump advertising together But sometimes I think I ought to include that in my breakdown too, because, you know, 'cause-
Specifically to a program.
yes, when you're advertising an event or something like that.
So yeah, okay, so she's asking that if you have an event and you have expenses for that event, should you attach that? Could you? Yes. So if you had an event and you were charging for booths for vendors, you could set up an item for that, and then you could also have those costs coming in against that as well. But again, that would be something I think where a class would be better. Just set your event up as a class, and then it's just a matter of when you put in your income and you put in your expenses, you attach the class to each of those transactions, and then you can look at a report, a profit and loss by class.
Okay, thanks.
Question. I have the real estate business as an S corp, but my husband and I also have rental properties. It's just personal, not run through my business or anything like that.
Right.
And that's an LLC. So I have used QuickBooks in the past. I want to get back. I have the program. I just need to get in and put my data in, and then give it to my CPA. He would love me so much more if I did that for him every year instead of paper stuff.
Right.
Anyway, so you're saying if I were to go set up each rental, I should do it as a class? As a
Yes.
separate house?
Right.
Okay.
So she's asking for, in regards to rental properties, what's the best way to set those up in QuickBooks? So one thing to say, you have personal rental properties, but you also have a real estate business. In QuickBooks Desktop specifically, you can set up multiple companies.
Right.
So if you have your company set up and you also want to set up your personal books, it works great for personal books. I do that myself. So for you, yes, you'd set up 2 different companies.
So one's an LLC, one's an S corp.
And then, yes, so each of your rental properties would be set up as a class. So as the rental income came in, you would just attach the class, which would be the name of the property.
And then whatever expenses and.
And then same thing with expenses. So if you had, or if you have something where you want to divide it, like you have 5 properties, you want to divide an expense against 5 properties, you can just write, like office supplies type of thing. You can do 5 different lines of office supplies.
Yeah.
And split it. And then at the end of the year, you would print a profit and loss by class for your tax preparer. And they would be able to take that information and put it right on that Schedule E.
It's just finding the time to do it. And I want
So-
to do it myself if I can. I mean, I know I can do it. I just gotta take the time to do that.
Right.
So I may call you.
So absolutely, yeah, that's what we do.
You can't do multiple companies on the online.
No, the online is one
They'll
subscription.
charge you for every company.
That's right. Yep, the online is just one subscription for that one company that you have chosen to sign up for. So, yeah, Intuit probably wouldn't like me very much in regards to the online. I'm still hanging in there with the desktop version, but it's faster, it offers more. Is anyone familiar with the open windows list? Does anyone use that function? That's another wonderful thing for going back and forth between reports. So if you go to View on the top bar and then you just choose Open Windows List, it creates a list on the left in the program that will show you all the windows that you have open. So if you're looking at your balance sheet, your profit and loss, a payroll report, and a customer invoice, if you've got all of those open, it'll show those in a list and you just toggle back and forth between them. It saves a lot of time. And in the online version, the best you can do to have that is to, you can open it up in multiple tabs in the online version. So then you can have multiple things open.
And it begins to get unstable.
What's that?
And then it begins to get unstable and crash.
So, oh, okay. So they're still working on it. They're working on it. So how about pay? Does anyone work with QuickBooks Payroll? Okay, great. So any questions about that? And are you using QuickBooks? Are you doing your own quarterly reports and W-2s at the end of the year? 1099s?
So we will have to renew the whole desktops if we're using the payroll service?
So the payroll, yeah, if the payroll service, yes, is you have to renew it every single year.
Okay.
And then,
Here, so.
huh?
I said this is our first.
Okay, yeah, it's good for a year from whatever date you signed up. And then the program that you're using is good for 3 years using the payroll. And then you have to upgrade the program. So, but the payroll will do everything for you. It will, but the 941, the VEC report, the W-2s. So, and that's another service. We offer full service bookkeeping. We could come in and do everything. Pay the bills, post the deposits, balance the bank statements. But we also can just come in and take a look, make sure it's working for you. We have lots of clients. We just pop in on a quarterly basis, pull up balance sheets, profit and loss, take a look at it, make sure everything is good, answer questions throughout the quarter. If you were to buy a piece of equipment that you needed to put on the balance sheet as fixed assets, a loan you needed to record, those types of things, we can help you with that. We work with you just on whatever basis you need. We don't have any preset. And if you did, if you're interested in QuickBooks training, it's one-on-one. It's specific to your business. I don't have a cookie cutter training program. I'm going to sit down and ask you specifically, what parts of QuickBooks are you using? What do you want to know? And then we'll go from there with the training.
Are you or any of your folks familiar with QuickBooks for Mac?
Yeah, I have several clients that use the Mac QuickBooks. So
It is different.
it is different. And they've gotten, for a while, for a while they weren't like playing nice with each other, but I heard that they've decided, in fact, they were going to get rid of the Mac QuickBooks at one point, but they've changed their minds apparently, so. Yeah, I know.
I'm not getting rid of a Mac.
So, right, I know, well, that's the thing, yeah, a lot of people aren't. So, yeah, I do have several clients that have Mac QuickBooks.
Do you have any clients who are government contractors?
I do. And so you've got a specific set of chart of accounts that they want you to have as a government contractor, and
Yes.
the direct and indirect and
Yes, all of that.
all of them.
And using T-sheets for,
Okay. Tracking time, because that's a big, big thing, yeah. Or do you get audited with your government contract, or?
we haven't yet.
Okay.
Eventually we will, and right now they're firm fixed price.
Okay.
So we don't really have to worry.
Yeah, 2 of the girls that work with me have a lot of experience with government contracts, and so I've worked with the incubator in Hampton before. I have several clients from there, so.
Karen, are you the one that does the training, or do you, and some of your staff does as well?
I actually do all of the QuickBooks training, but my staff does the bookkeeping work. So if you were to choose to use us for bookkeeping, then I assign someone to you, and you do see that person the same one all the time. It's not like someone different shows up every month or every quarter. So, but at this point, yeah, I still do all the training. So, anything else? Anybody else have a question? No?
Does it work well for manufacturing?
Yes, like if you were to take part A, so he's asking about manufacturing with QuickBooks, like taking 2 parts and then making a product. There is a manufacturing QuickBooks that does have that. That is one where you would have to have that extra module, yeah, type of thing in QuickBooks, because it would allow you through the items to be able to do that, to create pieces. And it does work.
Can you build those models, like say if you purchase the basic, then you can add those models as needed, or how do you do that?
Yeah, if you buy the basic QuickBooks, can you upgrade? Absolutely. Yeah, Intuit, believe me, they're going to let you spend your money. So, yeah, and it's not hard. And if you buy a desktop version that's just a single user, and then you want to go multi-user, it's easy to buy another license and add on. So you can have a situation where you have multi-user QuickBooks in your office if you have multiple employees that want to be in QuickBooks all at the same time. They do have that option. but it does have to be set up very specifically. I will tell you, if anyone does decide to do a multi-user platform, have a computer guy set that up. It is very specific about how it needs to be set up. Because I've had nightmares with that one before, where it didn't get set up correctly. So let me look back here. Another thing with, if you've posted in QuickBooks and you're trying to find something, QuickBooks is fantastic with its ability to drill down and back to the original transaction. And just a tip that the best place to start if you want to find something is either your balance sheet or your profit and loss. So if you pull up your balance sheet or your profit and loss, and it's just the standard, let's say you were looking for something that you bought in a materials expense, or you're looking for something that you paid to a subcontractor. If you go to subcontractor expense, double click on the dollars, then it's going to show you everyone that you paid. You can change the date range. You can look at it for 10 years. The other nice thing about starting with the balance sheet or the profit and loss is your ability to sort is better than if you went and tried to do like a transaction list by vendor or a journal report type thing. Those don't give you as good of options of sorting. So if I'm looking for something specific, I'll go to the profit and loss, like subcontractors. If you're doing workers' comp audits and you have to report your subcontractors' costs, go to your profit and loss, click on subcontractor expense, sort it by name. You can put in whatever date range you want, and then you can do your workers' comp audit so much easier, and you can use that printout. I know York County requires that with their with the business license renewal. You have to submit your subcontractors, and that's a great easy way to get in there and get that information out. Any questions? What time? How are we doing?
I have a question. I know that you said that you are not, that you like the best, but as far as what's into it, can you recommend any point of sale system that is actually compatible with QuickBooks? Because I use Square, and I can tell you that was a nightmare because it hooked up to the bank account and to the Square, and the person that I was working with hooked up Square and the bank account, and it showed double reporting. And I found it myself because I was looking at our income, and I was like, there's no way we made that much money. And what they did is they doubled.
So you were doing the banking download, online banking download?
Yeah, I have the online banking download, and then he also connected Square
to automatically download into your program.
So what happened is that everything that was coming from Square was putting it in as an invoice. So I had to go in there, and I had to delete everything from the invoices, delete Square, and now I'm just hooked up to the bank account. So I have a nightmare because I have to go back from the beginning of the year, and actually last year, because I didn't catch it, and when we did our he did our taxes, it actually reported double income. So yeah.
So two things, several things. So she's saying that she's using online banking to download transactions into QuickBooks. In addition, she has she's using Square as point of sale, and it's also downloading the information straight into QuickBooks.
Yeah, the guy that we had
as an invoice.
Yeah,
it's set up that Square comes in as an invoice. So this is a good question, because another if you're using the online download with QuickBooks, it is very important that that you understand that that's actually what they mean it to be. What QuickBooks means that to be is more of a reconciliation of what you've already put in your system, not as a data entry tool, but most people use it as a data entry tool. So if you're creating invoices in QuickBooks, that's creating income, and then you have an online banking download that brings in a deposit, and if you accept that deposit, you have posted your income twice. If you receive payment, so technically you're supposed to have that invoice, receive the payment, create the deposit. which would then match to what the online banking has pulled through. It would say, I match these transactions, and it wouldn't post that transaction again.
Right, and that, you know,
So-
he kind of said that, but the problem is because I want to separate it out because it just has I can't do it from, because we have product and services. So
Okay.
it wouldn't generally, it was just doing it as one or the other. And I said, how do you do that? And I had to split it out. And I don't know of any other way to do that except go in there manually to split it out, because he had everything just coming in as income for services
And not product,
and not product.
as far as your item was concerned.
Right.
Uh-huh.
We have to pay sales tax on that, so.
Ah.
I'm looking.
Yeah, you definitely need that broken out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can you go in, I don't know which one, I'm using self-employment, online QuickBooks, and you can go in and categorize.
I've done that now. I guess the question is there another compatible, is there another,
I mean, QuickBooks has a point of sale program
Okay.
of its own.
okay. And that's what you would recommend?
It works really, really well.
Okay.
It's not cheap, but it downloads 100% right into QuickBooks.
Okay.
It used to be that you had to use their merchant services as part of the deal, but I think they've gotten away from that
Okay.
now. But
So there's not a merchant service that it's just completely QuickBooks?
yeah, well, yeah, because Intuit has their own. Does anyone use point of sale? Or has anyone ever used point of sale? If you have a retail store, that it does work fantastic. It's a whole separate program, and then it downloads into the financial QuickBooks. So everything comes in from the point of sale into the screen, where in the deposit screen where you have to choose what you're going to actually make the deposit into. It comes in like that.
Okay.
And then you choose which pieces make up the deposit you're posting.
Okay.
But as far as what you're currently going through, there might be a better option
Okay.
that wouldn't cause you to have to.
Yeah, I have to go back and I've since deleted the Square aspect. I just have it come through the banking. So we're good now, but now I have to go back and look through all of it and,
So,
um,
and another thing to keep in mind, if you are using the online banking, you're only pulling in what's actually cleared your bank. So if you wrote a check and it never cleared, it's not coming in. So really, you want to post your information yourself and just use the online banking as that extra step to match up everything. And then you still want to reconcile your bank statements. A lot of people think that when they do the online banking download that it's reconciling, but it's not fully reconciling. You still want to go into the reconciliation screen and actually reconcile your bank statements and make sure that everything is working. And that's where, like what you're talking about, that's where a lot of times that will get caught. Although in yours, I've seen that. What you're talking about that happens a lot.
so we probably need to talk more.
So, sure.
I have your info.
So, and I do a free initial consultation too, by the way. I mean, you know, if you just want to, I'm happy to meet, find out what your business is and, you know, what you need,
Great.
and then tell you how we can help you from there.
Thank you.
So, I've not done this online banking, so you somehow, how do you arrange that? That's, you know, say Bank of America, okay, so I've got these accounts. And so how does that,
Pull in.
yes, how does that,
Yeah.
where do you pull it in, from QuickBooks or from the bank, or?
You actually are starting from QuickBooks. So he wants to know, how do you set up online banking? So for online banking, either whether you're doing the desktop or the online version, either way, you're going to start in the program. And then it's going to prompt you to type in your bank. So you go to your cash account and your cash, say that you want to do that online banking for that cash account. And then you put in your banking information and it'll tie. Most banks will pull in all of the information. There are a few that won't, but you can pull down a CSV file. I've even had ones where I couldn't download, because some banks also will have like you can only download the last 3 months, but I needed the last 2 years. And I've been able to go back in and get the information from the banking and a CSV and then import it into QuickBooks from that. So because another trick with banking, which are in banking, right, is that you can get to information in a 90-day window. You can't get to it, I've learned this, you can't get to some banking, like you can't put in like I want a whole year and a half worth of information, it'll tell you can't. But if you said I just wanted 90 days or 30 days, even though it was 2 years ago, it'll pull it up for you. So nothing pops up and tells you that. That's just trial and error. I figured that out one day. I was like, oh my gosh, look at that. So, but online banking is tricky, and you need to, if you've got multiple people in your QuickBooks, I caution against the online banking because it's because like what happened with you, where multiple, it can be in there several times. But if you are the one you're the only person that works with your QuickBooks and you know, it can be a great tool to use. But if you go in, like if you go to banking on the top line and in the program, and then it'll be online banking. And then it'll just prompt you from there to add your account. You can also download credit cards too. If you go into online, it'll let you do that.
Yeah, that's something that in my initial introduction to QuickBooks, you'd think that credit cards would almost be an easy thing, and somehow it makes it more complex or silly, or as if it's 10 years old and they haven't caught up.
So if you're using credit cards in QuickBooks, when you set one up in the chart of accounts, you specifically want to say that it is a credit card, that account is a credit card. And once you do that, automatically you're going to get on the home screen, enter credit card charges as an icon. And then so you don't want to just set up a credit card account as a liability. You want to set it up as a credit card, and then it will pull that information in. So then you'll enter credit card charges in a screen that looks exactly like entering a bill or entering a check. And then you actually want to reconcile your credit card just like you reconcile your bank statement. So especially if you're not paying your balance off every single month, you want to reconcile that credit card just like a bank statement. Is anyone familiar with the find? Oh, go ahead.
I just had a question on the, it's not necessarily a credit card, it's the bank card.
The debit card?
So I just wasn't sure, am I going about it the longest way possible? I just go to the check register and put in a ledger entry with the receipt and stuff like that. Is there a way to link that bank card?
Yeah, if you want to do the online banking, so she's asking, she has a debit card attached to her bank account, and how to get that information in the fastest way. I personally, when I train to go to write checks and use the full screen to enter everything, because you have all the fields. Whereas in the register, you don't have all of the fields. It's because it's compact.
Yeah.
Down there.
Yeah, and you have to.
And even visually.
Put in splits if you have multiple.
Exactly. So if you just go to write checks, if you're entering debit card transactions, just go to write checks on the home screen, put all of those in, and in the check number, you just leave it blank, or you can put DD for direct debit.
Right.
That's what we do.
So you would do it like where you assign the check number, not where it assumes the next.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, but if you're using online banking download, it's going to bring all those transactions in as well.
Okay, I'm not doing it.
So.
I was just trying to think if I was going about it the longest way possible or not.
I mean, I just think visually it's easier to start at write checks and enter those in versus using the register. Because the register has all those lines and everything's just right, and it's small.
And if you're backdating something, it goes
right
far away from where you were just looking.
Right, and then whereas if you're in the check screen, it's just save and new, brings up a clean screen, and you're ready to put in the next one.
Okay.
Anything else? Feel free to interrupt me. What was, oh, I was saying the find feature. So has anyone ever used the find feature in QuickBooks? Okay. If I know I wrote somebody a $2,500 check last year and I want to find it really quick, and let's say or you're looking up, you don't know who you wrote it to or something like that. If you go to edit on the top bar and then go to find, a screen comes up and you can find things on all different types of, amount, check number, who the vendor was, all those types of fields. It is a wonderful screen. I use it all the time. Mostly I use it for amounts. So
going to edit, some obscure.
Edit, well,
it
on
seems
the
obscure, doesn't it?
edit.
Yeah,
Well, on the very top bar of your program, it says File, Edit, View. That's what I'm talking about. The very top bar on the screen. So the second option is Edit. You'll get a drop-down list, and in the drop-down list, then you choose Find, and it will bring up a box that will say, okay, I want to find an amount, and then I can find it equal to. I can do an amount greater than. Lots of options.
Is there something similar in online banking?
To find something in online banking, in that specific online banking screen?
Like, is there a find feature? I remember using it in desktop. But
Oh, you're talking about the online version.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
I thought you meant the online banking screen.
Oh, no,
Online
yeah.
version, yes, there is. When you're looking at the online banking screen, up on the right, there's like a little, you can type in anything in there,
Yeah.
and that will create a find.
Okay.
It's not, it works great. I don't want to sound like I'm totally against the online version. I'm not.
I really like the online.
Yeah.
Having used both, I really like the online version. I just find, I don't know, it just makes more sense in my brain than.
And I'm sure, I guarantee you, it's because I'm old school. Started in 1997 working with QuickBooks, so. And I also feel like, too, business owners like the online. But from my side of it as the accountant, looking at your numbers and trying to find things, I can get through your desktop version 3 times faster than I can get through your online version. So I think that's the other reason why I tend to like that side of it. But we know the online version. I'm not, we definitely use it.
Like using the online banking for the online, and just like match.
Right.
Yeah, I know it, you're reconciled.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I use much less time spent in QuickBooks than when I was with Des.
So, and we have the QuickBooks Online for accountants. So if you have the online, the way you just send us an invitation. It doesn't take up one of your users in the online version, and then we have access to it to review it or help you in any way.
I actually switched because I thought they were going to stop the desktop.
I've thought that many times myself.
They kept acting like they were going to, you got to go online, because we're fixing to stop supporting the desktop. But it's still going on. Huh? You can still have the desktop.
Yeah, they have not stopped creating every year. The new desktop version comes out, so maybe they got enough feedback into it, got enough feedback not to do that. But I actually did think they were definitely going that route at one point. And one thing in business, you have to keep up with technology, whether you like it or not. You have to just learn it and know. So, like with the Mac version of QuickBooks, it's very different, but we learned it. So. Do you have any questions about that?
I was going to ask about using the budget feature, which I have always shied away from because, and I don't know if it's just a Mac thing, but I don't want the budget to be by month because I don't want I manage homeowners associations.
Okay.
So each HOA is a company.
Okay.
So if they make me use online, it's really a problem.
Yeah.
And the other thing online doesn't do is support their own IIF files, which if you are an HOA and you use BB&T's very specific HOA banking partnership, you then can't pull in your assessment payments using
online specifically.
Online.
But the Mac version,
The Mac
you can
version
pull
of the
in.
desktop does. If you stick with the desktop, you can do that. And we
So-
almost switched, and I randomly found that out. They did not tell you that you weren't going to be able to use IIF files.
right.
And the I in IIF stands for Intuit.
Uh-huh.
I was like, do you understand that it's your own file?
Right.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, we can't use those. And I was like, okay. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
an HOA budget, I don't want their March P&L versus the budget to look like things are just hunky-dory. If it's because there's something, in October, we just haven't gotten there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want the whole budget for the whole year,
Okay.
just in one place.
Yep.
So we used to think that what you had to do was like fudge it and put it all in December. Can you now do it for the year versus monthly?
Okay, so her question is about budgets and entering a budget in QuickBooks. When you enter budgets in QuickBooks, you have where, yes, you could enter it monthly, January for each of the 12 months, or they don't have it yet. It still doesn't go where you do it annually, but what I do is I put it in January.
In January. Oh,
Because,
so it always-
yes, so every report will always have the year to date.
Okay.
Yes, that's how I get around that.
Okay, and there's no problem with ever having to remember to tell it to go look at January's budget or anything? Once
No,
you
every
start having
time-
the report set up, it will always include January's plus all the zeros for the other months.
Well, do you are you running a report that's January, February, March, or are you running a report that's like January to February 28th and then a budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always going to put that full year-to-date budget in that column.
Okay.
If you put it in the January column, it will do that. And that way you're not having to run a budget report that says January through December and it's only March,
Right.
because that would be confusing too.
Right.
Or you have to pull it into Excel and change
And
it.
that's what what our workaround was that we had a template and we'd pull it into Excel. And then we'd just type in all the numbers and have our Excel template calculate the percent of budget. And
Oh.
that has worked.
Uh-huh.
But, it
You
was-
should be able to put it all in January. So she's saying if another column is the percentage of budget or dollars over budget. So yeah, if you put the full budget in January, then you can get those other two columns as well. If you go to customize reports, you might have to turn them on if it doesn't automatically pull them up for you.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go in and start playing with that again.
And anytime, like if you're pulling up a profit and loss or a balance sheet and you want to compare your prior year, just go to customize reports and add that prior year. And definitely a good idea to do that and see where you are. And so anyone who's in here for an S Corp, and you have yourself on payroll, do you have questions about how much I should pay myself or when I should pay myself or that type of thing? Any questions with that in regards to the IRS? The IRS has some rules on that. You can't take draws. Oh, and we'll put it this way. You're not supposed to take draws in excess of your payroll if you're an S Corp. And there's just some rules of thumb. Some people go 60-40. So if you want to take out 100,000 out of your business, 60,000 would be payroll, 40,000 would be taken out as a draw. I've had other CPAs say if you take your salary line and the net profit of your business, add those two together, your salary should be at least half of that number, and that would be acceptable to the IRS. So there's different things, different ways to look at that. There's always talk that the IRS is going to start looking at S corporations and owners and their payroll. It hasn't happened, but that's always out there. The tax preparers are always telling us that they're going to get stronger about enforcing those rules. So if you're an S corporation and you are not doing any type of payroll, you're not following the rules for the IRS. So.
But an LLC is just, you take it at the end of the year or.
An LLC that is filing taxes as a single member LLC,
Right.
as a Schedule C on taxes, does not have payroll. That owner does not take payroll. They just take draws. And you're right, the bottom line of your business is what you're paying taxes on at the end of the year. So.
You could just clarify, again, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA, but guys, an S corporation is just an IRS designation. Has nothing to do with the entity setup, the type of entity setup. Right?
Well, no, an S corporation is an entity setup. So you can, and of course, all the entity setups are state, or with the state of Virginia. So he's wanting to clarify about S corporation setup. So S corporations, yes, you can be set up as an S corporation, start to finish. But they also have something where you've set your business up as an LLC, but you elect to be taxed as an S corporation.
I'm only saying it because we've been a C corporation, and this year, my accountant says, you know what, we're gonna, going forward in 2019, we're gonna designate you as an S corporation going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because he told us not to do payroll in 2019. So we've been taking a draw, but we've not been like doing payroll, because we had a payroll disaster last year. So he's like, we're not gonna do payroll starting 2019. We're gonna set you as a S corporation going forward. So it's still the same corporation, which is initially set up as a C corp.
But it's a C corp, so that's even a little different than the S corp. Because a C corp, you don't take draws. You're taking distributions, dividends, that type of thing. So there's probably some other circumstances that made him say that. Yeah.
Horrible payroll, that's what
So, because if you have a business where you've invested, let's say you're a startup and you've invested $50,000 into your business, you know, the IRS isn't going to say, hey, take a loss on your books by paying yourself, and you know, and you've got a loan on your books. Pay yourself. You can pay yourself back and not have payroll. I mean, that is okay. You know, it's all about taxes. So, and the IRS not wanting you to take a draw where you're not paying in Social Security and Medicare tax, because you're always going to be taxed on federal and state based on your bottom line. I don't know. Sorry, I don't want to get real confuse anybody, but yeah, that LLC becoming an S, that's something that's fairly new. Yeah, in the last 10 years easily.
So what is the difference in tax rates?
Between the two?
You're saying there's an advantage to the S,
So in a
reporting as an S.
So what are your tax advantages in an S corp versus an LLC? And I don't do taxes as part of my business, but I obviously know how to do taxes, do my own taxes. I just, as part of when I set my business up, honestly, I saw a need for bookkeeping and I saw a need for QuickBooks training, and there were thousands of people doing taxes. So I just decided I wouldn't do the tax part. And, but
an approximate.
to answer your question, what happens is in a LLC situation where you're just the single member, you're going to pay federal tax, state tax at your personal tax level, plus you're going to pay 15.3% self-employment tax off the bottom line. If you're an S corporation and you then have payroll, half of that 15.3% becomes a business expense and lowers your bottom line, which then lowers the amount that you pay federal and state tax on. So you save a little bit in that respect, and then you also save a little bit because you can take payroll and you can take a draw, and in taking a draw you save, basically, because you own the company, you can say you save 15.3%.
Because it's not paid.
Because it's not payroll, right. So you're not paying Social Security and Medicare or having to match.
So you're just then paying your personal taxes on the part that you...
On your profit. Yeah, on your profit, not necessarily your draw. You're going to pay federal and state tax on your profit of your business, no matter how much money you chose to take out of the business. So if your bank account has $20,000 in it, you're still paying, taxes on that money that's in the bank, that you chose to leave in the bank.
So maybe this is the same question you just answered, but I think of it differently. I have been wondering, I haven't been my own business for very long, so I have been wondering, is it better to have the business have as little money as possible? Because my business I don't actually need a whole lot of money in the bank. buying things. I don't have to produce
Right.
anything. So is it better for me to take as much out and have it be converted to my own personal money? And keep only what I really need in the business? Is that the more tax advantageous way to do it? Or take only what I really need to have for myself unless something big comes up?
So the question
How do
is,
you do it?
well, so the question is, should I take the money out of my business by the end of the year, you know, and have the least amount of cash as possible in my account? And the answer is depends on how you're set up. Because if you are an LLC, single member doing a Schedule C on your personal return, taking the cash out for yourself isn't changing your bottom line at all. So your tax consequences haven't changed at all. Now, you could buy a piece of equipment with that money and then take an expense. You could choose to buy inventory at the end of the year as and well, that wouldn't work because that's not going to be on your balance sheet. You could, but
I'm an S corp from the get-go.
okay, so if you're an S corp, the only way that's going to help you is if you run it as payroll. So, well, thank y'all so much for your questions. I really appreciate it, and hopefully you've learned a little something. And I have business cards up here if you'd like one, and please feel free to take the items at your place that have buy the book on it, and I'd love to help you out if you need any help with anything. Thank you.
Thank you.